This will be the first time that we get to see Pikachu and Zekrom going up against a Zoroark deck. And we'll see, Pikachu and Zekrom was a lot of the reason that Zoroark started to become less and less popular. But can Zoroark stand up to this powerful tag team Pokemon? It's going to be a Jirachi in the active lead for Diego, and Jose with a Meowth. So this is going to be Zoroark Persian. Pretty darn convenient that we just went over what all that does. And yes, we lucked out on that.
Sometimes it just happens that way.
I mean, completely planned for.
Well, it looks like Diego was able to find that early Marshadow. That's going to be super impactful in this matchup. If you're able to get Jose down to 4 cards, if those 4 cards aren't good, we could see Diego just win the game on the second turn.
I mean, this is quite a good setup. Dedenne GX with Dede Change coming out of the Unbroken Bonds expansion. You discard your hand, you draw 6 fresh cards. You can only use that ability once per turn, but you can have multiple Dedenne to use over the course of the game. And we're seeing that as maybe an excuse some of the time for Zoroark GX deck, or for, Pikachu and Zekrom GX decks to not run Jirachi, but here we see Diego still going to include that Jirachi engine.
Yep, we see wisely Diego decided to save his Jirachi until after he uses Marshadow. He has 4 cards in hand, and now he gets to look at 5 other cards to potentially help refill this hand and continue to have this aggression that he has. Now he has a Guzma as well, so if Jose is able to find a Pokemon like a Zorua, he could start to target that as soon as next turn. Not sure what Jose has in his hand, though. He hasn't given us any peeks yet. Just a Meowth and 4 cards. It could be anything.
He's got a Meowth and a Dream. What more do you need?
Oh, that's a good one. Tapu Lele GX is perfect for a Marshadow to 4. He's going to be able to start to get a board set up. He needs to get some Pokemon into play so that he can just survive the first few turns. And as soon as he stabilizes, he should be in a fairly good spot. He has that Lily. That Lily's going to be able to get him up to 8 cards in his hand. We'll see if he's able to play any other cards. If he had something like Ultra Ball or something to thin down his hand so he could fill it up as much as possible, that'd be very helpful for him in this spot.
Yeah, very important to use that Lily on the first turn when you do have the option to draw up to 8 instead of just 6 later on in the game.
Not what he wants. Just has to play it straight out of his hand. He's going to get 4 cards, but he did find a few different balls. He's got the Nest Ball and the Ultra Ball as well. Pokemon Communication, so should be able to get a decent-sized board. Just don't know how many cards he's going to be able to keep in his hand as well.
Yeah, at the very least, he gets to set up a couple Pokemon on the bench, maybe try to get those Zoroark set up. We can see he's also running the Silvally engine as well. You can use Silvally with various memory cards to change the type on the Silvally. We were seeing earlier a fighting memory, likely for this matchup in particular.
Yep. Yeah, if you're able to pair those cards together, you can definitely start to target down on that weakness that Pikachu and Zekrom has. Most of the cards in this deck are going to be weak to fighting. So if you can use that fighting memory, you can start to take big knockouts.
So that's going to be the Dedenne GX.
Yeah, with this Dedenne, he's going to be able to draw a few more cards. He definitely wants to find a Zorua off of this next 6, though, because with only that Ditto in play as a potential Zoroark on the following turn, he's not going to have many trades available.
These are going to be 6 very important cards off of the Dedenne. He's going to discard a couple of Guzma, it looks like.
Yep.
A couple of triple acceleration energy, Professor Kukui, and 2 Lily. No Zorua.
That's really unfortunate. He's just doesn't have anything that he can work with on this following turn. If Diego's able to use that Guzma that he found last turn, he could target down on that Ditto and maybe remove that from play. Or maybe he fears the type null a little more. Ditto can become anything, though, so probably going to work on that Ditto if he can.
Yeah, just lock down that option for a Zoroark altogether, but we're going to see first a Stellar Wish from Diego. He's going to pull out that Ultra Ball.
Jirachi's just such a versatile card in this deck. When you have it combined with your escape board, you can do so many different things. Finding all these extra cards, just sometimes you only just need one extra piece, and when you're able to find it as easy as this, this deck looks so strong.
All right, and that's going to be a Guzma. Bring up the Ditto Prism, and the Zapdos coming into the active means you get the boosted damage on Thunderous Assault for the turn. And that is going to be the first knockout of the game.
Not bad.
And taking a pretty pivotal basic Pokemon out of there, that Ditto Prism can be evolved into any stage 1. So Diego, obviously not seeing any Zorua on the bench right now, wants to just eliminate the possibility of a Zoroark.
Yep, now, Jose was able to find himself a Savali. He has that triple acceleration energy as well. Now he just needs to find a way to get some relevant damage in play.
Lily for 2 is not ideal.
It's tough. Does find a Alolan Grimer. Not the right dark Pokemon to play down, but he'll take it. It can be helpful in this matchup. If you can shut down the Jirachi, then your Alolan Muck is very helpful, but needs to start finding some draw power. If he can find Zorua and get his Zoroarks into play, then his deck really starts to show how strong it is. So Jose's gonna take a peek. It looks like Zorua is gonna be the card that he focuses on, but of course, when you're playing in a match that is this pivotal, you're gonna look at every other card in your deck. You just wanna make sure that you know all the information that you have available to yourself.
Identify those prize cards very early. These players know their decks ins and outs. They know exactly what cards they're looking for. They should be able to identify those prize cards pretty quickly. For Jose, not having a Zoroark here on turn 2 is a bit of a bummer, but it is looking like he's going to be able to set one up for turn 3, get those trades going. The issue is he's already fallen behind a little bit, and Diego is now going to have some time to continue powering up that Pikachu and Zekrom GX.
Yep. Savali has given that Dedenne free retreat cost, and it looks like we have a knockout here onto that Zapdos. So Jose's going to keep up in the match. And now it's just up to Diego to start deciding how he wants to handle this matchup. Does he want to handle this Savali and take it out, or is it worth targeting the Zoruas and making sure that you never see a Zoroark come into play?
Thank you very much.
He's probably taking a little break, but he's back in line.
You know, when you take a knockout, it's pretty exhausting.
Oh, absolutely. Need a little breather, but can't judge him for that.
So Diego is eyeing up his main energy acceleration source in that Tapu Koko Prism Star. It's going to be able to get 2 energies from the discard pile and put them into play. You see him eyeing those right now.
A Dance of the Ancients ability, it does take Tapu Koko and put it into the Lost Zone, but you get to accelerate those 2 energies onto 2 different Pokemon onto your bench.
It's a noble sacrifice.
He's working for the team. I mean, that's a team player right there.
Yeah, I respect that. You know how many times he's gone to the Lost Zone for Diego
So many times.
to get the 4-1 record?
For the good of the wins.
Yeah.
Tapu Koko wants that dub no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
Even though he's never a part of it.
He's just watching from the sideline.
It's like when you're respawning and your team's about to win, and you're like, no, wait for me, I'm going to be there. That's Tapu Koko every time. All right, but that is a Pikachu and Zekrom GX ready to use full blitz, ready to accelerate 3 additional lightning energy from the deck. It's going to be 180 damage.
We actually got a little extra. We got that Electro Power and the Choice Band.
We got that 210.
Yep. It's going to help out a lot. Get 3 energies accelerated onto the board. Got to pick a place to put them, though. And do you commit all in on your Pikachu and Zekrom?
I mean, that would activate the additional 170 damage from Tag Bolt GX if Diego wants to try and take 2 knockouts on the next turn.
Yep.
Importantly enough, Dedenne GX only has 160 hit points, so Tag Bolt could potentially take 3 prizes in a single turn. And there's just really no better target to attach to.
Yeah. This would be a lot more intimidating if to put down those energies. If Jose did have a Type Null or a Ditto available, he might be able to threaten a knockout using Rebel GX on his Savali along with that fighting memory, but he doesn't have that available to him. So it looks like Diego is comfortable just putting all of his energies down and saying, I know you can't beat this guy. So we'll see what Persian has available for us.
And then he is going to use that catwalk ability off of Persian GX because Silvally GX was knocked out on the previous turn. Now Jose can go ahead and search his deck for 2 cards, any cards that he wants, put them in the hand. And hopefully that's going to be enough to make some magic happen because he's pretty far behind.
Yep. That Mew, of course, has that bench barrier ability. We've seen that in countless Mr. Mime cards, but Mew now has it as well, so can avoid some extra damage from the Pikachu and Zekrom's secondary effect.
And that is going to be Zoroark GX. And a double colorless attachment.
Yep. Not a bad turn for not having any one hit available. This is pretty much exactly where you want to be. Your Persian was able to get you a pretty nice sized board. Wasn't able to find his Alolan Muck to stop any potential Jirachis or Marshadows from coming in. But so far this looks like a pretty nice setup for what was a pretty awkward amount of turns for Jose in the beginning.
Diego with full blitz and a choice band is just an electro power away from taking this knockout though. Putting himself down to just 1 prize remaining. I mean, Jose with the bench barrier ability on the Mew has prevented game this turn.
Yep.
Looks like Diego might be searching out Tapu Koko GX potentially.
I think he was looking at
Zeraora,
but he has to get the nest ball to get there first.
A little ahead of himself.
So hold up.
Zeraora, any Pokemon with lightning energy attached to them do have free retreat.
Yep.
So that's quite nice.
And at this point, I think he's just looking for a Pokemon to take some of these energy cards. He just wants to make sure that once this Pikachu and Zekrom falls, he has 1 more prize available in the Zeraora.
Yeah. Too much energy. What do I do with it? All right, there's the Electro Powers. The full blitz is going to be able to hit 210 and take a knockout onto the Zoroark GX.
And yep, he does have the 3 energies available. It looks like the only 3 energies in his deck as well, so
That's quite clutch.
that worked out very well.
Diego goes down to 1 prize, and now what does Jose choose to attack with? Persian can do quite a bit of damage depending on how many Pokemon you do have in your discard pile.
Yep.
But it's very dependent on having that triple acceleration energy available, which Jose does.
He also has his, yeah, he's got that triple acceleration energy there for him, so that's going to be helpful. Don't know what else he has in his hand. I feel like he needs to limit Diego's hand. If he can drop that down, maybe then a Zeraora wouldn't be able to find the necessary additional attack buffs.
I know he was eyeing a judge off of Catwalk, but I don't know if he ended up actually taking it. No, it doesn't look like he did. He's got a Rescue Stretcher and a Guzma.
Catwalk ability.
So Persian is going to go ahead and use Catwalk one more time. The GX Pokemon was knocked out, so it's to search through.
He does have Judge. And he can find that Alolan Muck. Power of Alchemy locking out all abilities in play in each player's hand and in discard piles. So important that you sequence everything in the right order, but had to Catwalk to find the Muck in the first place.
Yeah, looks like this is going to work out pretty well for Jose. He now just needs to hope that Diego's not able to find the cards to get there. And the fact that the Alolan Muck is in play, that means that Jirachi's no longer going to be able to help search any of those damage amplifiers. So he's going to have to find these straight off the top of the deck. Jose not finding anything terribly relevant. Palpad could potentially give him some more Judge in the future if he was able to find that later.
It's potentially a bit of a way off, though.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like he has all that much time.
Just has to hope for the best here. Maybe, yeah, Guzma's could buy him some time as well. If he's able to top deck those, maybe stall a little bit. Just you have to hope that Diego's completely out of energies and can't find these Guzmas. Did you see over in Diego's hand? Because I got a little peek.
Got a little pixies.
Yep.
Little glimpse.
I think we know
there
what's
we
happening.
Go. He's got the goose. All right, that's going to be game number 1 over to Diego Cassiraga. A fairly quick one, but it looks like once Jose was able to set up, he was able to make good use of that catwalk ability off of Persian GX, start searching through the deck and find those really big disruptors that he does have available to him in this list.
Yep.
However, it took a little bit too long to get that Zoroark set up. He was never really able to make good use of that trade ability and, you know, had to just ride his beating for 120 just to set up a knockout. And it just didn't go very smoothly for him.
Yeah, his deck is supposed to run a lot better than that. He had a lot of awkward Pokemon on the bench early in the game that he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to have Tapu Lele and Dedenne and
Yeah.
all these little extra Pokemon in there. He wants to see 4 Zorua and pass the turn. The next turn, he wants to go trade, and just get there. Have a Meowth on the bench so that you can get that Persian ability after your Zoroark gets knocked out, but just wasn't able to find everything. He's got all the tools in his deck to win a match like this. He's got Silvally and fighting memory, so he could get there, but he just has to find everything in the right order. And
Yeah, that was just a bad example of what Jose's deck has to offer, I think.
Yeah.
Getting that Tapu Lele and the Dedenne down very early on, it might be necessary to try and set up, but also it's a bit of a detriment because then you're leaving yourself open to Tag Bolt GX and that extra 170 damage. Snipe onto the bench can take 2 extra prizes then, and that is not a swing that you want to allow the Pikachu and Zekrom player to have. So for Jose, he would much rather have a lot of those Zorua and Zoroark up very early and then just trade to find all of those additional resources.
Yep, even having those Pokemon available to be Guzma'd and not requiring the Electro Powers and the Choice Bands to take knockouts can be really, really detrimental. So if he could find a setup that doesn't involve those, if he could get Nest Ball, Ultra Ball, use a Lily, and just get there with all of his regular basic Pokemon, I think we see a completely different game.
Yeah, and we saw a pretty clunky early hand from Jose to the point where he had to Lily for 4 and then later on Lily for 2. That is not ideal. You want to be able to run down your entire hand, Lily for between 6 and 8 cards on turn number 1.
Always 8.
We never settle?
Just
Always 8?
Always 8.
Okay, fair enough. I am not setting my sights high enough, apparently.
If you have an evolution Pokemon in your hand, you did it wrong.
You know, he only runs like 6 of them.
Right.
But we're never opening any of those. All right, but Jose is going to get to choose whether or not he wants to go first here, and I would assume that you always choose to go first, so you can start to evolve those Zoroark right on turn 2. And with 30 minutes still on the clock, we very likely could get through 2 games here.
Yeah, I could see it happening. I feel like the game was going to end for either player on the following turn anyways.
Yes.
We were getting really close to that kind of a game, so 17 minutes, I could see that being, that's going to give us just about 3 good games here.
And with Tag Team GX Pokemon in the mix, you're always going to have those big prize swings one way or another.
Yep.
So the games tend to end quite decisively. Electro Power, 2 Electro Power and a Jirachi in the prizes
And a
for
choice
Diego.
band, so the damage amplifying is going to be pretty difficult. Oh, come on, Jose. Figure it out, man. Start that Marshadow.
Oh my.
What are you doing?
Not the right thing.
Nope.
Well, you gotta do what you gotta do. And he does pick up a Nest Ball. And this is actually not the Marshadow that you've come to know and have strong feelings about either way. This is the resetting whole Marshadow. It says once during your turn, if this Pokemon's on your bench, you may discard any stadium card in play. Then you discard the Marshadow and all cards attached to it. So it's sort of a field blower.
He should never be all the way on the board. He should just show up and do his job and go away.
Goodbye.
So for Jose, this looks like a much better start. We already saw that Nest Ball. The Ultra Ball was in hand. So we'll see just how low he can get this hand or how low he wants to get this hand. And it looked like on the other side, Diego's got a pretty strong hand too. So both players should be able to get exactly what they want off of these opening turns. So Jose valuing all of his energy cards very highly. He held on to Ultra Ball in his hand there and decided to Lily only for 4. I believe he has 2 energies and a rescue stretcher that he was holding on to when he went for that Lily.
And he's going to prioritize picking up a second type null here.
Yeah.
Instead of going for a Zorua, that means he wants Silvally up and ready to take knockouts by next turn.
Yeah. It's also a nice play around the Zapdos. If you see your opponent start that Zapdos, you know just an escape rope and energy can take away your Zorua, so you don't want to leave that option available to him. If he's going to play one Zorua, he wants to play 5 Zoruas or 30 Zoruas. He wants to definitely give himself room for one of those to survive.
Best to just play multiples at one time and not give your opponent the option of sniping them turn after turn. It's going to be a Faulkner from Diego. Pick up a Lightning Energy and an item card.
He's got a lot of great item cards to choose from in his deck. He can really just pick and choose what he wants to go with here. If he wants to go with a very aggressive route, he could use Electro Powers and start to take down the Type Null that it has that fighting memory attached to it, as he already has one in hand. Or he can choose a less aggressive route, maybe try to set up his board, somehow find a Dedenne in his hand. So he's going to go with that escape rope. He has an escape rope in hand. I always like when you show an escape rope and then of course you play that one that you have. So he's like, oh, he searched for it, so he's not going to have another one. And then you can slide in that last one next turn.
It's always best to conceal information as much as you possibly can. You have to reveal the card that you take off of Faulkner, so you might as well play that card and then prevent your opponent from knowing exactly what's in your hand. Make a guess. We do see, even with 2 Electro Power prize, Diego does have a copy of Electro Power.
Yep, so that electromagnetic radar is going to be able to find Dedenne. Dedenne is going to find a lot of cards, and this is exactly where Diego wants to be. He's got Lightning Energies in the discard pile. If he's able to find his Tapu Koko Prism Star, he can just load this board with tons of energies. Looks like I was mistaken. There was no extra escape rope.
Ooh. Well,
that's not bad for him, though.
Forget that we spoke about that extensively. Now that electromagnetic radar is a fantastic inclusion in these electric lists. You get to search through Dedenne GX, Zeraora GX, and Pikachu and Zekrom GX, which are essentially, for the cost of 1 Ultra Ball, you get 2 Ultra Balls worth of searching, and that's just good value.
Yep. So with that Electro Power, he was able to get the 80 plus 30, the 110 knockout on the Type Null. Works out pretty well for him.
Going to see that Rescue Stretcher bring Type Null right back for Jose. And Devoured Field going to come and play, knock off that Thunder Mountain.
Looks like Jose has some decisions to make. Once again, he's just sitting there with a lot of energy cards in his hand that he doesn't want to get rid of. He knows he's going to need these if he's going to take big knockouts.
Double dark. Can I read the fighting memory? It becomes a fighting type. Yeah. Okay.
Well, that fighting memory didn't pay off.
Not so much.
It's actually going to be the reason he doesn't take a knockout here, because he just gave his opponent resistance.
Yeah, Zapdos is interesting. It has the lightning weakness because Zapdos is a dual flying and electric type in the game. Does not actually have that fighting type weakness like Pikachu and Zekrom. It's a bit of an unusual case.
Okay, thank you.
So I believe they were discussing the effect of the Devoured Field in play. All right, so Diego is going to be able to find that Tapu Koko. He has 2 energies in his discard pile, as we were talking about earlier, so has those energies available to charge onto the board. Doesn't have to worry about Alolan Muck shutting that off. If he can get this off early in the game, he can get all these energies into play and start doing some pretty relevant damage.
All right, and that's going to be a full 6 cards off of Lily. Picks up a Guzma and Capera Guzma, actually. It looks like he's the last Electro Power as well.
Yep, he has that Tapu Koko GX as well. Not enough energies on Jose's side of the board to really get a lot of value from there.
bring up Zapdos and go ahead and deal some damage with Thunderous Assault. (110) with the boost from becoming active this turn and from the Electro Power.
So now Jose just has to decide when enough is enough. He has not really been able to do anything, so yeah, he has to go for some Pokemon this turn. He needs to use his Ultra Ball, either find a Dedenne or a Tapu Lele and just get somewhere, because he hasn't played relevant supporter cards. He hasn't really gotten the Zorua setup that he's been looking to get in either game now. So he needs to get there, and he thinks that Dedenne is going to be the best option. I think that's the best option for him too.
Get a fresh hand of 6 cards and hope that it is going to do work. But things really need to start lining up here for Jose. Diego's had a much slower game. He does not have Pikachu and Zekrom in play, but his Zapdos has been putting in a fair bit of work.
These have been such tricky turns for Jose. Once again, he finds an Ultra Ball, but every time that he builds his hand up, he ends up throwing away half of it just trying to get Pokemon into play.
It doesn't seem like anything's really been able to stick. He's going to Tapu Lele, Wonder Tag for Guzma.
Yep. So he wants to get some use out of that fighting memory card that he's had on that Savali. He could choose to target down the Zeraora and take some relevant prize cards. Problem is he just hasn't been able to play any Zoruas down, so his deck is looking really weird.
Yeah, this is not how it's supposed to function.
So he's got a choice to make. He can either take out the energies that the Tapu Koko could potentially bring to the field, or he could take the prize cards right now, and he thinks the prize cards are more important.
I think this just goes back to his hand being so dry. He thinks he needs 2 prizes versus 1.
Yep.
Even though knocking out the Tapu Koko Prism Star would have removed the Dance of the Ancients ability and potentially made Diego's turns a little bit slower, Jose just needs to get his own consistency engine going with that Zoroark GX.
All right, so back over to Diego, and fortunately for him, he does have that Electro Power, so Zapdos is going to be able to take a knockout here. It looked like he was going to have a hard time finding the damage amplifiers when we saw his prize cards, but it's just worked out for him that he's drawing into them at the right times, and he gets to keep picking them. Once again, he's going to run himself into the choice band, so he's got that for next turn now.
Yeah, that bottom right prize card was the first one he took, and it was an Electro Power.
Yep. Jose, his deck just looks a little clunky. He wants to have Persian available whenever a Pokemon GX is in play. He hasn't had a Meowth, and he wants to draw cards with Zoroark, and he hasn't had trade, so he can't get anywhere. He's got this Judge right now, and that's a card to start to hinder your opponent. You're not using that card to try to find yourself everything you need off 4 cards, but that's the situation he's in. He needs to start finding things, and he needs to find them now.
Ideally, you have your Zoroarks on the board when you go to play Judge, and then post-Judge, you can continue to trade away, and then you are always going to be at a resource advantage.
Yeah.
That's just not the situation Jose has found himself in the last couple of games. Clearly, with a 4-1-0 record, he's been having a good tournament run. So this inconsistency that we're seeing must not be the hallmark of the deck and the experience that he's had largely over the course of today. But right now, things just really aren't coming together for him. I mean, he picks up a Meowth, but double colorless energy, another Guzma. This isn't going to do it. He's going to have to just energy drive.
Energy drive, yeah. He's going to get, looks like he could possibly get 1 turn from the Persian, because Diego is at that 3 prize card spot. So 1 more GX Pokemon could fall before you get some use out of your Persian. But after that, he doesn't get to search his deck very much.
It seems like Diego, after having seen the Silvally in the previous game and the fighting memory, has just decided that it's not worth contributing energy to Pikachu and Zekrom GX this game, because the fighting typing of Silvally means that Pikachu and Zekrom is likely to get knocked out very easily. So he's going for this alternative line of, I'm just going to Zapdos you a whole lot of times, and well, I'm probably going to win because my 1 prize attackers are going to beat your 2 prize attackers.
Yep, and this is the perfect turn for him to bring out the Tapu Koko GX. He's going to use Tapu Koko Prism Star, gets his 2 energies onto the board, and then he can use his ability from his Tapu Koko GX, move these energies, and he has his opponent with 4 energies on the board, so it's going to be able to do 200 damage.
With that Arrow Trail ability, Tapu Koko GX can go right into the active. You can pull all of the energy onto it. We're going to see Devoured Field taken off of the board as well.
Yep. Just gives himself a little extra hit points there with that stadium. Dedenne is going to get moved up into the active spot. Lily for 4 is going to have to find probably a Persian and a lot of other cards to help out.
Another Guzma. Looks like a memory and maybe his Zoroark.
He's looking. I'm not seeing it.
This is the point where you look at your cards and you hope that they transform into something else, but they are just not going to. And Jose, he's running a few different lines in his deck. And ideally, you get your Zoroark set up very early, and then it doesn't matter that you're running a Alolan Grimer, Alolan Muck, and that you have, you know, Persian and Meowth and all these different basics in stage 1s, because you're drawing so many cards and you're finding so many resources that you should eliminate a lot of the inconsistency that you've naturally built into your deck. But it just didn't go that way for him. It was honestly kind of a couple of strange games to watch where a Zoroark deck just never really gets going with Zoroark.
Yep, on paper, when you look at Jose's deck, you go, oh, he's got fighting memory. He can just take out these Pikachus and Zekrums and win the game. He's got the Alolan